Every empire swears its money is safe. Every government insists its promises will last forever. Yet time and time again, history proves otherwise, from Rome to France, from the Confederacy to modern-day Lebanon. Ordinary people have woken up to find their savings wiped out, their salaries useless, and their futures stolen by systems they believed were unshakable. Collapse isn't rare, it's the pattern. The real question isn't if financial systems fail, it's how you protect yourself when they do. One of the most dangerous mistakes in finance is believing things are permanent. We look at our bank accounts and national currencies like they're carved in stone, but money isn't stone. It's trust. And trust can disappear overnight. That's why history matters. It's harsh, but it leaves tracks. Patterns that show what survives and what doesn't. And if you look closely, you'll notice something important. The people who survived weren't the ones who trusted the most. They were the ones who asked questions first. Take the Byzantine Empire. It's often remembered as the eastern half of Rome that managed to stay alive for 1,000 years. At the center of its economic success was the gold solidus, a coin so consistent and reliable that merchants around Europe, the Middle East, and Asia accepted it without hesitation. It was the medieval world's closest thing to a global reserve currency. And yet, even after watching Rome destroy its own silver currency through debasement, the Byzantines repeated the same mistake. Slowly, quietly, they reduced the purity of their gold coins. For a while no one noticed, but eventually trust cracked. The solidus, a coin that had supported trade for centuries, became just another political illusion, and as its credibility collapsed, so did the stability of the empire's economy. Who made it through that crisis? Not the people clutching government promises. It was the merchants who quietly stored real gold or land beyond the reach of emperors. That's the first lesson. Rulers always struggle to resist the temptation to dilute their money, and once they do, real value runs toward things they can't fake. But collapse doesn't always come from government mistakes. Sometimes it comes from shocks no one sees coming. In the mid-13th century, Europe was devastated by the Black Death. Nearly half the population died, cities emptied out, villages disappeared, and trade routes stalled. Yet economically, something strange happened. With so few workers left, labor became precious. Survivors could demand higher wages, and assets like land suddenly became affordable. Fields lay empty. Homes went unsold. Anyone with liquidity, silver, goods, or even just the ability to work, found opportunities everywhere. And yes, it feels familiar. During COVID, we saw a modern echo of this. Supply chains broke, governments printed enormous amounts of money, and inequality surged. Those with cash bought property and stocks. Those without struggled just to keep up. Once again, pandemics didn't just destroy lives. They redistributed wealth. And then there's Renaissance Florence, a place that proved giants can fall faster than anyone expects. In the 1340s, Florence was Europe's banking hub, but when the English king Edward III defaulted on massive loans, Florence's biggest banks collapsed almost instantly. Depositors lost everything. Trade froze. A city that seemed invincible was suddenly humbled. The lesson? Too big to fail has been a myth for centuries. Institutions are built to profit, not to save you. The American Civil War tells the same story from a different angle. Both the Union and the Confederacy printed huge amounts of money to pay for the war, but what started as patriotic necessity turned into inflation that ravaged families. In the South, it was catastrophic. Confederate money lost nearly all its value. Soldiers' wages were worthless. Ordinary people watched a lifetime of savings disintegrate. The only things that held value were real goods, land, food, gold. America has already lived through a currency collapse. And the lesson was clear. Protection didn't come from paper. It came from owning something real. France's Revolution was no different. In the 1790s, the government issued a new currency, the assignats, supposedly backed by seized church lands. But they kept printing more and more of it. Prices soared, wages couldn't keep up. Soon the currency collapsed. Farmers refused to accept paper money at all. Bread riots returned. The revolution started consuming itself. And once again, the winners were the people who held real assets, not patriotic promises printed on paper. Jump forward to 1997. Southeast Asia learned another harsh truth. Thailand's currency peg failed, and suddenly its dollar-denominated debts exploded in cost. Investors panicked. Currencies across Asia collapsed. Economies shrank. Millions lost jobs. And although global hedge funds triggered the crisis, ordinary people paid the price. The ones who survived best were those who held assets outside the system: dollars, foreign real estate, or anything insulated from the chaos. By now, the pattern is obvious. Whether you look at Byzantium, France, the Confederacy, or Asia, the same themes repeat. Paper money fails, debt traps nations and families, and survival belongs to those who understand fragility before it becomes obvious. And collapse isn't ancient history, it's happening right now. Look at Lebanon. Between 2019 and 2021, the banks simply locked their doors. People woke up to frozen accounts. Withdrawals restricted. Their currency crashed by over 90%. Lifetimes of savings evaporated. Families stood outside banks begging to access their own money, only to be told it was gone. The people who survived were those who had diversified early, held assets outside the banking system, or simply trusted their instincts before the collapse hit. If you think this can't happen elsewhere, remember 2008. Millions of Americans lost homes while the banks responsible were rescued. In 2020, trillions were printed, inflating assets while wages barely moved. In 2023, regional banks collapsed in days simply because people lost confidence. So, how do you protect yourself when everything falls apart? History gives us clues. In Byzantium, it was gold. After the Black Death, it was liquidity to buy land. In Florence, it was skepticism toward big banks. In the Confederacy, it was hard goods. In France, it was food and property. In Asia, it was avoiding debt and foreign currency. In Lebanon, it was escaping the banks early. The details change, but the message doesn't. Real protection comes from knowing what actually holds value when the illusions break. And here's the strange part. Collapse is both tragedy and opportunity. For the unprepared, it's ruin. But for those holding liquidity or real assets, it becomes a rare moment to acquire wealth at historic discounts. After the Black Death, peasants became landowners. After 2008, people with cash bought homes for pennies on the dollar. And it isn't just about what you own, it's also about what you can do. In every crisis, people still need food, repairs, transportation, tools, and trade. The people who could provide these things didn't just survive, they rose. At the end of the day, wealth isn't just a balance sheet, it's resilience, it's skills, it's understanding that systems fail and preparing for what's real, not what's promised. Every crisis transfers wealth, from those who trust to those who prepare, from paper to reality, from passive savers to active builders. So don't ask if the system will break, it will. Ask whether you'll be left holding empty promises, or something real. If this gave you a new perspective, hit subscribe. History has the answers, I'll show you where to look.